and the time that Raoul's put into studying Bitcoin. But when you said buy it at 6, I went, okay. And so my question to you is, when's the next entry point for me? I mean,
right now is my answer.
Really?
We're standing at the precipice where the machines are going to take more power in the world.
Yeah.
More central bank printing is coming because the only answer to raising rates now is to deal with the economic downside, which is print more money, right, or more cowbell, as I call it. The asset that does the best in that environment is cryptocurrency and technology. So we're in this perfect storm, and gold tends to do well.
Raoul Pal, the founder and chief executive officer of Genuine Vision, claims that now is the perfect time for investors to invest in the cryptocurrency markets, since it is one of the few sectors that will be supported by the ad revolution rather than being entirely demolished by it. He claims that Jenny's air has already been released from the bottle, and it is unknown how much of our routines, industries, and established systems would be affected. Raoul, however, is adamant that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether will not be wiped out by AI, regardless of how you choose to look at it. The macro expert actually thinks that the only sure chance for investors and business owners is in cryptocurrencies and technology. In a recent conversation regarding the AI revolution and how much it will alter the world as we know it, Raoul sat down with well-known finance expert Robert Kiyosaki. Raoul, a former Goldman Sachs executive, and Kiyosaki, a well-known investor and bestseller, are senior investors, but even they are unable to fully appreciate what the future of the human race will hold thanks to AI. This is despite their combined decades of expertise in the financial markets. The future, according to Raoul, will be a time filled with many prospects and great excitement, but it will also be a frightening one. He and Kiyosaki also talk about the state of the macroeconomy today, and how that is encouraging investors to abandon traditional structures. American investors have been trained, in Kiyosaki's opinion, to work long hours to accumulate wealth before turning it over to Wall Street financiers. The author of Rich Dad Poor Dad thinks that the time has come to an end, since Wall Street will be one of the first industries affected by the AI revolution, along with its antiquated infrastructure. Raoul and Kiyosaki also predict that central banks will turn on their printers once more, which is another reason they think it's time to seek refuge in tangible assets like gold and Bitcoin, as well as everything else that cannot be created by magic by the government. Raoul thinks that technology and cryptocurrency will benefit greatly from the upcoming exponential age. To combat the fast collapsing fiat Ponzi, Kiyosaki is investing heavily in hard assets. Please watch the video through to the finish as we bring you significant clips from the fascinating discussion that combines both thought processes. Ensure you turn on post alerts for future videos like this, subscribe to the channel, and like the video if you enjoyed it.
Well, just yesterday I was at my dentist's office. And I'm so old, you know, I remember when they're coming across America in covered wagons. But I'm at my dentist's office just yesterday with a guy as old as me, and he's showing me my teeth via AI. Now, Raoul, I had no idea what he was talking about. But he's an old guy, an old dentist, good one. He was blown away. He says, these are just your teeth. What we're doing with AI today. So, but that's all I knew. An old guy, an old dentist, just going, I can't believe what they're doing. And so he and I were conjecturing, like we're doing now, what happens tomorrow. And what he said is that AI is going to take over machines. So whatever that means, Raoul, take it away from here.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've all seen this machine learning and AI coming, and then suddenly that ChatGPT happened, and suddenly human knowledge has become scalable. That is something, yes, books did that before, but not in the same way as this. It means we've got infinite knowledge accessible anywhere all the time in a way that we can't understand. So I think it's one of the most powerful technologies the world has ever seen. And when you hear people like Sam Altman talking about it, they don't even know how these things learn. There's an amazing documentary about DeepMind, the Google version, when it beat the best Go player in the world. And there was this moment where it started playing Go like no human. And they're like, well, it's clearly gone crazy. It's mad. It doesn't work. And then it won every single game ever since that date. And it had learnt itself how to play the game of Go in a way no human had ever done before, played moves that no human had done, and had strategies that they didn't know. And that's the same thing with AI now and these large language models. We don't even know what they know. All we know is what we can ask them. And that's kind of weird. It's like meeting somebody in a foreign language and you've only got some of the words, in Spanish to ask them a few questions. That's not the extent of their knowledge. It's the extent of our ability to question them. So there's that happening. And then, as you said, Robert, the applications at real world level outside of this chat GPT are growing everywhere. There was a friend of mine here who is the chairman of the local hospital, and he is also the radiologist. And I showed him this one night over dinner. And he just got this new, well, he knows he's out of a job eventually, but they're using AI to read some of the x-rays and stuff. But he said, I've just taken a possession of a new MRI, brain MRI machine. He says, I've never used it before. It's new technology. And he said, I spent 6 hours today teaching myself how to use it, Googling and everything else. He said, I had to pull research papers, all of this. I said, why don't you ask ChatGPT-4 the same question? We were over dinner, over a glass of wine, and within 30 seconds, his face went ashen, and he's like, oh my God, it knows everything.
Well, the answer is it's going to do a lot of good, but it's going to destroy a lot of the old. It's the same as Bitcoin's doing. So the question is, another person I was listening to says women will be the biggest losers. And he says the reason for that is that men have traditionally combined both physical and mental activities. So like an auto mechanic still has to, work the wrenches and things like this. But if you're an office worker, or what they call a knowledge worker, so 60% of women, he says they're going to get wiped out. And I went, wow. So I'm not saying it's true or not, but people are conjecturing like we're doing today. What does this mean into the future? Well, it goes back again, Raoul, to Rich Dad Poor Dad, based upon two words, asset versus liability. What's an asset? What's a liability? It's called financial literacy. How do you define an asset and how do you define a liability? So when Wall Street defines an asset as a mutual fund, they go a little nuts. The question is, whose asset is it? Who's the counterparty there? So this piece of gold has no counterparty. That's why I call gold, silver, I call it God's money. It was placed here by God. They're on the periodic tables. Bitcoin is people's money. Because Wall Street, well, so far they can't mess with it that much. And so he goes into financial literacy definitions. What is an asset? What's a liability? So that's why I know he's hated by a lot of people, but Trump and I are really good friends. And we talk about how we create our own assets. What an entrepreneur does is I don't need Wall Street and I don't need the Fed, anybody to create my assets. So today, and I get kicked off of shows because of this, Raoul. No, because they said, well, what stock do you recommend? I said, I don't. I create my own assets. I don't want anything that you can mess with. I don't want any of this stuff here. I want this stuff here. So I invest in cattle. The Fed cannot print Wagyu bull semen. So I sell it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything they cannot print, I'm in. I invest in oil. But I don't invoice, I used to work for Standard Oil as a third mate on their tankers. So I understand the oil industry. But I don't invest in the stocks, I invest in the oil.
So I hear what you're saying is invest in the real assets that aren't financialized. So you're kind of out of the system, right? And that's why even Bitcoin resonated with you, because you're like, okay, this is out of the system. It works for my framework of how I see the world playing out. And, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, one of the reasons I ended up moving here actually was because I saw civil unrest, because Europe in 2012 was going through what the US is going through today, which is the banking system blowing up, all of that. And I saw this and thought, this is not good. It's one of the reasons I wanted a plan B. It's the reason I found Bitcoin in 2012, 13 was all of this. Americans are now getting the realization a bit later than the Europeans had, which is you're on your own. It's something you and I have both talked about, is you're on your own in this world. You better figure it out because nobody's here to help you.
Right.
So I think my perspective on this is, we talked about AI. Mine is invest in your own disruption is the best thing you can do. And as you say, one thing is be an entrepreneur, but open your mind, as exactly as you said, Robert. Realize the world has changed, adapt, you'll be fine, or more likely to be fine. And if you're an investor, invest in your own demise. So that means, okay, every single AI, every robot, every single self-driving car, all of it requires a semiconductor.
Right.
Buy bloody semiconductors. There's an ETF called ETH. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to know the technology, you don't have to do anything. Buy one ETF, it's likely to do well over the next 10 years because we're going to have massive demand for this stuff. If not, just technology companies. And people don't look at valuations. We're in a complete regime change. I think even Robert's explaining this is a completely different world we're about to go into. So forget your valuation models, forget everything else. Just, this is going to be, and maybe a big bubble at some point. You can get out when it gets a bubble, but we're early stage. We're nowhere near the highs yet, so go for that. And my other part of this is, as the machines get smarter and there's more AI and more robots, they will have their own system of money, and that will be cryptocurrency, because that's the efficient way for machine-to-machine payments. It all is part of this theme. So my theme is invest in that digitization. Your theme is invest in things that are non-disrupted by digitization. That's a very nice barbell of a portfolio if we put these two ideas together, because one will maintain wealth and the other gives you an opportunity to get a bit of a moonshot somewhere as well.
What do you think of Raoul Pal and Robert Kiyosaki's descriptions of the impending AI revolution and the pressing need for tangible assets like Bitcoin and technology? Please share your thoughts and views in the space provided below. Ensure you turn on post alerts for future videos like this, subscribe to the channel, and like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.